The industry is going crazy right now with big data inflation. It is growing at a rate that we've never seen before. Some industry experts are saying that data grown in the last 2 years at a level never seen before in the last 100 years. So we created almost 95% of the data in the world in the last year.
So the underlying infrastructure today has not been designed for this kind of data. So there's a variety of data, there's a velocity of data, and there's a volume of data. These are the three things that are so different from just 20 years ago, and that our existing infrastructure isn't ready for handling something like this.
At the same time, infrastructure is changing at a tremendous pace. Companies want it to be simpler, they want it to be more agile and responsive, they want it to be less expensive, and they want to spend far fewer of their own hard-earned skills and resources building and running that infrastructure.
Frame-based arrays no longer cut it, they're just far too expensive. So looking for application optimized type solutions, using flash that really drive the performance and the cost benefits and really can take us forward.
The real value is that it enables IT to become simpler and more agile.
And by having, a flash type solution where you can really get to that data quickly, it can help drive the analytics that allow us to get insights, not just have data.
So by putting storage in servers close to where the compute is, it enables this near real-time analytics.
One thing that we see in the storage space is the movement from traditional HDDs to flash. And especially as the amount of flash capacity in data centers continues to increase and the price points continue to come down, we are seeing flash being adopted very, very heavily this year as opposed to last couple of years.
I think that the market would be a great place if everything was flash. It gives you high performance and it gives you lower power utilization.
With sort of software-defined storage and with technologies such as flash, customers now have the ability to completely unlock the power of information that they hold.
Server-side flash utilization actually allows customers to scale out very seamlessly.
Because all these layers in between, like flash, are actually changing the workloads. They're transforming the workloads. So anything that used to be, very bursty, that goes through the disk drives, is now nice and smooth and sequential.
So the holy grail is to build simple systems that scale. And the scale-up monolithic array, doesn't scale.
So we need to continue to innovate in the infrastructure space in order to, go boldly into the software-driven economy of tomorrow.
Well, that's a very interesting video, not only because it has so many of our friends that we all know in it, the very familiar faces, but it also has a very familiar theme in it. The theme that the world is changing in this web scale architecture is becoming necessary. It's not just a cost savings, it's becoming necessary to actually achieve what we want to achieve. And so you're going to see that's what we're going to dig into. So my name is Darren Thomas. I run the storage business at Micron, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all here to the MSSC, the Micron Storage Solutions Center. That's the name of this place, and we are sitting in an area that has not yet been built out. It was actually scheduled to start construction, and we decided to use it for this instead, and then they're going to start construction almost as soon as we get out. So this is our new software development center. There's a lot of things that occur in this building that are very unique, and our agenda is going to be very unique. So we're going to talk about this scale-out architecture, web scale. There's a lot of terms used to describe this, but we're going to talk about this, this model and how Micron is central to it. So you're going to see I've got several of my team members that are going to come up, talk about the software component to it, talk about some of the announcements we're going to make today. Some of them are, to be quite honest, exactly what you'd expect us to do. We're going to announce some new SSDs. But some of the announcements are going to be very unexpected. And I look forward to your reaction as well as maybe some conversation afterwards, because this is a very different model for Micron. You're demonstrating what Micron has said over and over again, that we are transforming into a true storage company. And as we do this transformation, events like this start to become second nature to us. So it's going to be a fairly packed agenda. So with that, I want to get right on to it. It's my great pleasure to introduce our President and CEO, Mr. Mark Durkin.
Thanks, Darren, and thank you all for joining us here today. It's really a unique gathering of different classes of people that you obviously haven't previously seen Micron bring together, but I think it is indicative of the fact that Micron is changing, and we're changing in many significant ways, but really as a reaction to the industry changing. Many of you know us as a component supplier of leading edge NAND flash and DRAM and NOR flash and SRAM components over the years. But as Moore's Law is starting to slow, we really have a great opportunity to change the nature of our business. And how that works is that when we can take the time to become much more intimate with our customers and develop solutions that really help drive value for them, it drives a business that's much more about differentiated products, value-added solutions, and system solutions that really are sort of changing the nature of our business. And so that's what brings us here today, is to talk more about that, and in particular, as it applies to the data center, because in many ways, this is where we can really have a sea change in the way people think about memory and the way people think about memory solutions. Just think about it. In a leading edge data center environment today with a server working on high value workloads, probably 75% of the components in that server are going to be either a NAND component or a DRAM component. So, what better opportunity for Micron to engage with our customers in a different way, and what better opportunity, for us to really deliver some differentiated value.
That's great. That's a great point. This 75% number, it's something that we tested against the industry. Some of our analyst partners have told us it's a pretty accurate number. 75% of the server, when it's configured in this new scale-out model, is NAND and DRAM, and one day, soon, will become even 3D XPoint. And with that, there's an enormous amount of complexity that we have to solve, because just making the server faster, you have to also build the rest of the infrastructure that releases all that capability. And we're going to be talking about that. Some of the legacy systems today, they operate fine, but as soon as you go to these web scale systems, you can now start to achieve performance numbers and scaling numbers and affordability numbers that are so different, you actually have new problems to solve. You actually have new software things to solve, and we're just getting started.
Yeah. So, Micron has built here in the storage business unit, I think, a really world-class team. Here in Austin, you're seeing, part of that team. But Micron is a global company, and we're a global company with the broadest set of technologies available anywhere in the world, and with a broad product portfolio that goes with those technologies. So, what better partner to work with? I've been at this now for about 31 years, coming up on 32 this summer. Micron's got a long and storied history in the semiconductor industry and in the memory industry. We were formed in '78. We started manufacturing in '81. I joined the company in '84, the same year we went public. And then as we moved through time, we really were very DRAM focused for the first part of that following decade. But along the way, we introduced SRAM products and NOR products. As we moved into the 2000s, in 2004, really a very significant change for Micron, as now, at this point, a global company, really taking a huge chunk of our resources and moving them over to focus on NAND flash. We could see then what a big opportunity this was going to be in storage, but also in many mobile applications, et cetera. And we took a lot of resources and dedicated them to driving the technology, with first to implement self-aligned double patterning. We moved from an introduction into the market at 90 nanometers and a 2 gigabit device, which at the time seemed like a wonderful density and just an incredible amount of storage on a monolithic chip. Today, as we've migrated to 3D NAND, our leading edge products are TLC, 384 gigabits of data on a monolithic chip. That'll store 30,000 high-resolution pictures, over 20 hours of HD video, just a phenomenal change that we've been able to drive through Moore's Law, and now we start to think about moving to the next phase. Along the way, Micron's done a lot of other innovations besides the sort of Moore's Law and the manufacturing efficiency piece. We've picked up Lexar in the middle of 2005, I believe, which was an introduction into card solutions. We've delivered SSDs through Crucial into the consumer space and the client space, and most recently started delivering enterprise SSDs that hopefully you guys are going to hear more about today, and SSDs optimized for the data center. But we've also taken this system-level approach into other areas and innovated with things like hybrid memory cube that also help bring high-density DRAM close to a processor to help solve some of the bottlenecks that we see with big data applications. That solution, by the way, has a high-density DRAM stack with a custom ASIC that drives built-in self-repair, built-in self-test, high-speed interface to the processor. We introduced an automata processor that we're working with many applications for today to drive sort of the future of bringing that memory also closer to processing, and something I think that will be value add for many in the room in years to come, not quite today. And most recently, just this year, 3D XPoint, we introduced just another phenomenal innovation that will drive the future of storage and drive the way we think about how we get maximum data close to the processor to solve some of these big problems going forward. So we've got a history of innovation. We continue to focus on that on a go-forward basis, and we think you're just really starting to see the beginning of great things to come from Micron.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Micron is in kind of a unique position. Let me just put it in terms of the uniqueness of Micron, just for a couple of very basic, simple numbers. There are only 4 companies in the world that create NAND. There are only 3 companies that create DRAM. There are only 2 companies that do both NAND and DRAM, and there's only 1 company that does NAND, DRAM, and these emerging memories like 3D XPoint. So we're in a pretty unique position to not only drive this differentiation, but be at the forefront of it, recognize the challenges, and help our customers execute to them.
Yeah. So all that work requires investment. Micron's not new to the memory business. We understand the cycles. We understand it takes capital investment to be a valued supplier to all of you in the room. We understand it also takes R&D investment to bring these new emerging memories to you. And we've done that through the years and have a real history of success and innovation. We also understand that more and more there's a piece on the end, which is a systems level investment to really drive differentiated solutions. And that's, this Austin Design Center or this Austin Software Center is really just a small piece of that overall effort, but a very, very important one in terms of changing the way you guys interface with our memory and really opening up the opportunity to drive significant value for the customer.
Right, and we've been in the NAND business for 12 years, and in that period of time, it has already changed a lot. We have seen the adoption of the client devices, the consumer devices, to the point where they're pretty well down this path. They've adopted it. We're down to the few remaining devices that have not, are basically the low-cost entry-level parts. And so we're seeing this integration of the value of SSDs or flash into these devices at the client and consumer level. What's happening now is you're starting to see this innovation occurring at the enterprise level. We're starting to have enterprise customers say, business to business, we need this differentiation. That's what you heard on the video. Every one of those speakers was speaking from the perspective of an enterprise company. And it's very important that we begin to address this. And there's some interesting facts. About 2.5 quintillion bits are produced every day. That's a billion bits produced every day. And that sounds like a great deal for those of us who store things, but it creates a significant challenge for the IT departments, because that number is about 4x the growth rate of the worldwide economy. So our bits are growing faster than the worldwide economy. The worldwide economy cannot afford to just keep doing things the way they've been doing and keep up. A change is required. And you also see it's not just the capacity, the volume of all this data, it's also the velocity of the data. You see customers now looking at data that's coming off of other machines, the Internet of Things. Medical records are all being digitized. Video on social media, just copied phone photos from social media. You're seeing an explosion of data, and most of that data has a life cycle to it, very short life cycle. As a matter of fact, we use this in Singapore. We are looking at big data solutions in Singapore. Mark?
Yeah, we're no different than many of the other verticals represented out here in the room today. You know, we have just massive streams of data coming at us faster than we can analyze without some of these new storage techniques and really a collaboration, you know, between hardware partners and software partners and our own manufacturing guys to really bring all this data together. Just think about you know, a $6 or $10 billion fab running in Singapore today. We've got thousands of tools with hundreds of data streams, each delivering thousands of bits every millisecond. So just massive amounts of data coming at us. Then we got to go and try and correlate that with inspection streams that are taking you know, millions and millions of pixels and electronic metrology streams that are driving millions of bits of information. It's just a very, very difficult problem. And all that data just has it's useful for a very brief period of time. It's useful to you if you can use it to quickly catch a defect mechanism or to understand something that's changing in the environment and take action. And we're doing that. We're doing that today in our manufacturing environment. It's driving, you know, faster yield ramps and higher quality. And just one of the applications, I'm sure everybody out there in the room is doing a similar thing.
Yes, and this is what's driving this need to go to higher scale, higher scale at a better affordability, higher scale at higher performance, higher scale where you're not going to spend 3 months building the higher scale. You're going to build the higher scale in sometimes hours and days. So we have a tremendous challenge in front of us to kind of break down some of the barriers. This technology that was more frame-based arrays is now going to be going inside the server, and within those servers we are now going to be running them at much higher speeds, doing data analytics at speeds we've never done before. But the NAND and the DRAM and the 3D XPoint all support this capability. And what we have to do now is we have to build out the rest of the infrastructure to support it as well. So with that, what I'd like to do is invite my next speaker up. My next speaker is actually runs this site and is the individual who has built most of this software capability for us. But I want to tell you, this was so important to us that when Micron hired me, he was the first individual I hired, and he has been working towards this day for all this time, almost 2 years now, and on his clock, over 2 on mine. And it's very important. So Steve Moyer is our Vice President of Engineering. He's got a PhD from University of Virginia. I have known him throughout many parts of my life, and he has been key in building parallel file systems, parallel computing systems. He's done his own startup. He's, by definition, a key software innovator. So I want to invite Steve up to walk us through what he's learned.
All right, well, thank you, Darren. So, good morning and welcome. So we are excited to have you with us here today. As Darren said, this event marks the official launch of the Micron Storage Solutions Center. This is our hub for storage innovation, centrally located right here in Austin, Texas. Now, I'm going to take the next few minutes to talk about the work that we're doing in our 3 focus areas here. They are customer workload optimization, partner solutioning, and storage software innovation. Before I jump into those, though, I want to take just a couple of minutes and talk about the site itself. And let me start with our selection of Austin. Why did we choose to put the Storage Solutions Center here in Austin, Texas? And there's a lot of decisions that factor into doing a site build out. But for us, there's really 2 primary things. First, a key tenet in all the work that we do here is collaboration. And it turns out, Austin is just really centrally located for us to be able to collaborate with many of our valued customers and partners. A second important factor in our decision is that, as Darren and Mark were talking about, it's becoming all about the systems. And Austin, certainly has a great tradition in systems companies. And one of the great things, of course, that means that you have here is a great pool of talent with system software development capabilities. And of course, that matters a lot for our work, as you'll see. So a few facts about this site. In its current configuration, it is 11,000 square feet. It gives us room for 65 team members and up to about 600 square feet of lab space. As Darren mentioned, we are quite literally days away from beginning the second phase of our build-out. And that's going to take us to approximately 17,000 square feet, space for 85 team members, and nearly 2,000 square feet of lab space, which we're very excited about. In fact, pretty much exactly where you all are sitting is by midsummer, we'll have about 1,200 additional square feet of lab space on top of what we already have today. So, by end of summer, we should have, I don't know, upwards of 100 million IOPS running right there. So, all right, so that's enough about the site. Let me talk about the work, because that's, why we're all here. So their first focus area is customer workload optimization. So what does that really mean? That is a collaborative effort between the engineers here at this site, working with our enterprise sales team, working with our end customers, to bring their applications into our lab, to understand the workloads they generate, to understand what type of demands that places on the storage. We spend a lot of time, turning all the knobs and dials on the application, on the operating system, on the underlying storage subsystem, understanding how all those moving parts work together. And then, armed with that data, right, we can generate the reference architectures, the white papers, the sizing tools, really all the collateral that our customers need to be able to deploy that application with Micron storage and do it in a way that is most cost optimized in order to meet their requirements. Now, we do a lot of these studies here in this lab, and we're going to be doing a lot more of them as we expand. And there's a common theme that we see emerge, right? So something you see fundamental to every one of these studies that we do, and that is when you take a workload and you transition it from hard drives to SSDs, invariably you see not only an increase in performance, but a decrease in footprint, a decrease in power, a decrease in cooling, really a decrease in total TCO. In fact, really the common theme here is when you transition a workload from hard drives to SSD, you drive cost out of your hardware infrastructure. Now, like I said, we do a lot of studies here. That is something that we see consistently again and again and again. But one of the fun things, from an engineering standpoint, when you do these, is when you get those unexpected results, right? The thing that surprises you, when you see something that you weren't looking for, that ultimately brings benefit to the customer. And so I want to give you just 2 quick examples that we had here. So we've done and continue to do a lot of work with Hadoop. And in this specific study, we were looking at deploying Hadoop storage nodes. Now, if you're familiar with deploying Hadoop storage nodes, the HDFS software itself, you know that it is a best practice to do that on a physical server. And the reason you do that is if you were to attempt to virtualize the workload, to put more than one virtual storage node onto a single physical server, you drive up the randomness in the I/O, and then the net effect is you drive down the performance for the individual storage nodes. You drive down the performance for the server node, right? It's just a lose-lose situation. On the other hand, the great thing you see when you transition that workload from hard drives to SSDs is it enables a whole new use case, a whole new deployment architecture. In fact, it becomes a best practice to deploy it virtualized. We get more performance per storage node. We drive up the aggregate performance of the server. And think about this. This is a huge win-win for the customer, right? So on the one hand, we've driven the cost out of the hardware infrastructure, what we constantly see with each of these studies. But then the other thing is now, because we've gone from a physical deployment to a virtualized deployment, we're also driving the cost out of the administration side, right? It's a real win-win. So I'll give you a quick example. Another thing that surprised us, that was a new use case. It was something that we weren't really looking for. And this came in from the database world. So as you imagine, a lot of our customers care a lot about database workloads. It's a common workload to move on to SSDs. And in this particular study we were working with, it was, I think it was Microsoft SQL Server 2014. And of course, we move that workload, you put it on SSDs, we see all the performance benefits, we take out all the cost, all the goodness we expect to see. But what's interesting is when you do that, now all of a sudden, you have a lot more IOPS capabilities on the node. And so we realized, well, hey, how can we put these to constructive use? Right? What's the best way we could use these additional IOPS? So, a common way, if you're deploying a high availability solution, right, which a lot of customers want, so you'd set up 2 database servers, you connect them to a shared storage array, one fails, you got the data available to the other. Well, when you've got these extra IOPS available to you, it turns out really your most cost-effective and your simplest deployment is to remove that storage array, to set up replication between the 2 database servers, and you still achieve the same level of performance, but now you do it in a simpler deployment, and you do it without the cost and without the administration overhead of the array, right? Again, another real win-win for the customer. So, all right, so that's customer workload optimization. So let me talk a little bit about our second area of focus here, and that is partner solutioning. Now, that is kind of a made-up word, but we actually do mean something very, very specific by that. And it is a collaboration between Micron and our software partners and our platform partners to put together solutions fully optimized end-to-end for the customer workload. Now, one of the things that I want to emphasize here is that this is not intended to be just a packaging exercise, right? It's just not a marketing exercise, right? This is really about meaningful engineering collaboration between the partners so that we can evolve our products together, right? So that we can enhance them together, so that together we can deliver a solution that is better for the customer than anything we could have delivered individually. So, I'm going to stop there on this because when Eric Enderbrock comes up, he's going to, among his announcements, talk to you about some of the great outcomes we've had from this partner solutioning effort. So the last topic I'm going to talk about, our third area of focus, is storage software innovation. Now, that is a pretty broad term, so let me narrow that for you. What we're really focused on here is fundamental storage software R&D to really unlock the full economic value of memory-based storage. You know, think about this, right? So the storage stacks that we have today evolved for 60 years around hard drives. So then ask yourself this question. If we had actually started with non-volatile memory, would the storage stacks look like they do today? So I'll give you the short answer, and that is no. You know, I've spent 25 years, my entire career, you know, crawling around inside of these things, and I can tell you that what we do throughout the storage stack today is not what you would do if you had actually started with non-volatile memory. So in fact, it is an imperative that we, you know, take a step back as an industry. We really re-examine the storage stack from first principles. And, you know, we're not the only ones saying that. You know, if you follow what's going on in the storage research community, you'll see others saying the same thing. So then you may be thinking, okay, Steve, yep, I see that, I believe that, that makes sense, but, you know, why would Micron focus on, you know, that aspect of it? Isn't that, you know, kind of outside of your wheelhouse? And I'll argue, in fact, it's exactly the opposite, that it is a natural extension of our core competencies. You know, Micron is a company that has nearly 4 decades of leadership in memory technology, a decade in SSDs. So in fact, the storage software for us is really just the missing link between the application and the storage. So in fact, it is a perfectly natural thing for us to want to innovate from the application to the media, because every point along that path impacts how our customers experience our memory technology. Now, to have this kind of change, you know, obviously is a collaborative effort. It has to involve the ecosystem. It has to integrate naturally. But again, collaboration is an important part of everything that we do here at the Storage Solutions Center. And in fact, I'll give you just 2 more examples that are relevant to this area. So you may not know this, but Micron has been and continues to be a sponsor of the Linux Foundation. And in fact, we recently became a founding member of the Center for Research in Open Source Software at UC Santa Cruz, which is the birthplace of Ceph. All right, so that's all I'm going to say about storage innovation today, though I certainly hope to be talking a lot more about it in the not-too-distant future. And with that, I'm going to invite up Eric Endebrock, who's going to not only make some great product announcements, but also talk to you about some of the great outcomes from these focus areas. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate it. Well, thanks all. And I have the great privilege of maybe one of the exciting parts of this, where I get to announce new things. And you know, that I think is really what it really comes down to as a product person. I love to come out with new solutions and working. But before I do that, you know, I did want to mention this is enterprising. Enterprising is a capability, and it's the future of how Micron is at the core of doing things different. You've heard a lot about modernization, the need for accelerating how flash adoption, how compute, how merging storage and computing together and scale out architectures really matters. Well, all the things are very true, and what it takes is a site like this with engineers like Steve who are collaborating with the partners in the world. Great names like VMware, like Red Hat, like Microsoft, the kind of partners that hopefully are out there on watching us live on the video stream and are here in the room. You know, teams that are really coming together to kind of change how the industry is enabled. But not only that, enterprising is bringing together and driving new things happening. Next door, I don't know if you know it, but we have the SNIA board members meeting on their quarterly business meeting. We're participants on the board. We have Rob Pegler sitting with those teams on the SNIA teams, hosting them. That's part of what enterprising is. But enterprising is even more. It's taking great technologies and it's putting them together. And so let's get into that. So, you know, we talk a lot about our 3D technology, and I know one of the things is move through the slides here a little bit. One of the really interesting things, and I hear a lot of questions about, is when are you taking 3D to that next level? And one of our 2016 big priorities is taking what I think is the best 3D NAND technology in the industry, using floating gate. It's unique. It's targeted at the kind of workloads that we're talking about and driving that through our portfolio. So I thought it'd be appropriate to at least start out and say, let me tell you what this year looks like. Let me announce the portfolios that are going to use our 3D NAND technologies and when they're at. Let me start it off with our first one in April. Well, and if I check my watch, it is April, so we are right on the cusp of what we call our MX300. This is a consumer SATA drive. We're just launching it. We're extremely excited about it. It's using our 3D NAND and TLC, and it's really targeted at customers who are enthusiasts, who want to upgrade their systems. It's going to be a very powerful solution for us. And the great part about our 3D TLC, starting to get a little noise there, is that it leaves right off where our MLC solutions go. So we're saturating the SATA bus, giving high performance at the right economics, that real central place where price and affordability come together. So very excited about this. Followed really quickly by our client OEM solutions. So we're announcing our 1100 and our 2100 series. These are client OEM drives, both SATA and PCIe. This will be one of our first client PCIe drives that we're announcing. These are just amazing products that are going to enable the next generation of thin platforms. They're going to enable power savings, longer battery life, higher performance. Take some of our technologies that are unique to Micron, things like dynamic write acceleration that allow our systems today to boot quicker, to go into power save mode more quickly, to drive the applications that the client world demands. And so very excited about these products, you know, enabling both M.2 form factors that are single-sided up to 1 terabyte, so high capacity and extremely small form factors, and PCIe performance, which is moving towards that next generation for the client world. So very excited about those. And then following on into the second half of the year, what you're going to see us do is roll out 3D NAND across our portfolio. So you'll see that coming out in technologies that are extremely low latency, have extremely low latency for the workloads today, have performance that saturates certainly SATA buses, and then moving on to give higher performance in the PCIe space. So really exciting offerings that are coming out through the rest of the year. I know there's always been lots of questions about when will we see in the real world Micron's technology, and basically I'm here to tell you it's here now starting in April, and you'll see it rolling aggressively throughout our portfolio, and it's very exciting to us. But you know, 3D NAND technology isn't the only exciting things happening. You know, we see a big transition from SATA into the PCIe space. And another part of an environment in enterprising is actually taking what customers need and matching our technology base that we have, and we have access to a lot of great technologies, and putting that together in new and innovative ways. And one of those has been our participation in NVMe and the PCIe standards. So we see a pretty rapid adoption, especially in the enterprise, starting to take hold where PCIe and NVMe technologies, and we've been part of those consortiums for many years, they're really kind of moving forward. And so I wanted to announce our enterprise NVMe solution set. So I've got two different families here. I've got a 9100 family. And so I say family, it's many different types of drives. It suits read-centric solutions. It's got mixed use. It's got write-centric. So it gives you a very broad breadth of performance and capability. The 9100 is really geared at enterprise customers. It comes in half height, half length. It's also in 2.5 inch. This solution is really targeted at general purpose what I guess we would say has been the traditional market for PCIe in terms of its high performance. These drives run at 750,000 IOPS and extremely high megabytes per second. So very exciting technologies. Let me compare that a little bit with the 7100 series, because that's part of what we've learned in this solution, and part of also what enterprising is understanding what's next. And how do you further drive out cost for your customers? How do you take it to the next level? So we've been working a lot with hyperscale customers, the biggest of the big, the scale-out customers. And they said, you know what I don't need is one SSD that runs at 1 million IOPS. What I need is a lower power profile, extremely low latency, form factors that allow me to put more SSDs in my platform as I move forward. And that's where the 7100 comes in. It's becoming more of an emerging space, but it's focused at lower power, where a traditional PCIe slot take 25 watts of power. Well, the 7100 series is half that. So it runs at up to 12 watts of power. It comes in M.2 form factors as well as 2.5. And so it's really meant for, now we're seeing this more scale-out architectures and how they play forward. So very exciting part of filling out our enterprise portfolio. And again, part of enterprising is having the right tools that go with it. An interesting one is PCIe and SATA isn't the only thing in the world, and there's innovation, and innovation comes in a lot of different ways. One way you innovate, and one way Micron's innovated, is unique and interesting partnerships. We partnered with another industry giant in the world of storage, and that was Seagate. And we came out with our drive, it's the S600 series. And this series is a product of SAS drives, and basically here to announce, those have been out shipping. We're in volume shipments. Very exciting. And when you look at both our PCIe drives as well as our SAS, what I think the best part is you're starting to see the customers come towards them. And actually failed to mention on that last slide, we've got customers using our PCIe products as we speak, a company called Distillery. Distillery is exciting. It's one of those companies that couldn't exist if Flash and these new modern architectures didn't exist. And you'll be hearing more from Amit later as he comes up with Mark Glasgow. But basically what they are is taking market intelligence and customer interactions, and they're doing that at a scale and speed that's never been seen before. Something like 50 billion web transactions a day flow through their systems, all enabled through Micron technologies and some of these new modern architectures. Another great customer example that is using our drives, and they're here and you can see them as well, the company called Symbolic.io. Symbolic.io is a software-defined storage company. They're using both Micron NVDIMMs, so they're taking advantage of putting more computation and storage in memory, as well as our 9100 series SSDs to really get unheard of efficiencies of computation and move that closer to storage in a way that hasn't been seen. And they do that through various schemes of data reduction. And so it's very exciting, and I'd urge you to go look at their booth as well. And on this slide, SAS, what we've seen is, there's a lot of customers who aren't looking necessarily ready to modernize, but they need to extend what they have. And that's where we complete our portfolio with the SAS, where we have the Newberry County Medical, this hospital set up. They've taken our SAS products, and we also have them in several other OEMs. And what they're doing is they're extending the number of remote connections that their doctors can do. They serve a broad population, and they got to have doctors call in. And while that's great for a hospital, they get to have more minutes and scale their resources so their doctors get more time with these patients. But even more than that, they get better treatment. They're able to provide better care. And that's somewhat what the end result of all of this that we're doing. Now, having a great portfolio of technologies is wonderful. Filling out our portfolio of enterprise SSDs, something you'd expect from us, I hope. Very exciting and interesting to us. But what we also wanted to talk about today is how do we take all of this that we've discussed with you, all these trends, and we take it to the next level. And it's interesting, we talk about how do we partner together and collaborate. And so I'm here today, and one of my great pleasures is to announce the Micron Accelerated Solutions. This is our first entry into providing a complete system-level solution to the industry that is both collaborative, it includes software, it includes the server platform, as well as our memory technologies. Putting these all together in a way that makes and simplifies the activities of modernizing our infrastructure. You know, we talked a lot about data growth being unrelenting, and you see that in reports. It's still the biggest thing storage companies have to deal with. Well, I would put to you that data growth is almost a legacy answer of the storage community itself, because it's the tail wagging the dog. It's not the growth that was so important, it's how you deal with that growth. And we talked about it in our own data centers. Mark and Darren referenced this. The data comes at you so quickly, and you have to do something with it so quickly to have it become a competitive advantage. And companies like Distillery that we talked about, these are the companies on the forefront of that. But moving forward, there isn't a business that I can think of that hasn't taken data analytics and the speed of data and transforming information into real decisions and using that as a competitive weapon. But to do that is a complex world. To do that takes a more software-defined approach. It breaks the rigid barriers of what is storage today. And so very excited about these solutions. Now let me talk to you. This is a capability that we have. Steve kind of mentioned what we can do in this site. Our intent is to partner much broader than this. We're announcing 3 amazing solutions today that you can go out and purchase, or you can use our reference architecture. And this is where, you know, it's hard for a person like me who's focused so much on marketing, but we've actually removed the marketing hype from these solutions. What we've done is had our engineers search out the limits, the borders, and find the nexus of where platforms and solutions can make things affordable, have the right performance, have the right stability, the right durability, really bring these things together. And actually, even probably the most important one, the one that I think is most important to a lot of people, is predictability. So how these things can be predictable solutions. So let me talk to you about a couple of those, because they're very exciting. Let me talk to you about all 3 we're announcing, in fact. Let me start off with our VMware vSAN solution. We're launching a ready node solution. This is an AF 4, 6, and 8. So those are the VMware configurations. And we're doing that with our great partner Supermicro and VMware. We've engineered these solutions to be just outstanding. And so when you think about what does it take to deploy this, a lot of people have a virtualized environment. They're looking for help to take their virtual investment and move it beyond what external storage does today. And that's where vSAN comes in, which is an exciting technology, especially with the 6.2 release of VMware vSAN. And when we've put this together, what you find is we compared this against a hybrid solution. Traditional knowledge. Steve talked a lot about how do you learn things in this industry? How do you move the ball forward in modernization? One of the ways you do that is you take traditional understanding of a solution. You take SSDs as your cache drive in a vSAN, and spinning media as your storage. And you compare it against what you can do. And what we found is that actually by using the right mix of SATA SSDs for affordability, taking a cache layer, and in fact, we had to create a new cache layer that optimized and tuned our SSDs specifically for vSAN, and that's available through this solution as well. And what we've done is we found we could be 40 times the IOPS of a more traditional hybrid configuration of vSAN. And that's a read, excuse me, that's a read view of that today, but even it's 15x in a mixed-use workload. So really you can see that SSDs and an all-flash array vSAN really moves the needle on it. But that's not it. It's not just about the performance. It's finding that nexus of affordability. We can do that at 44 cents a gig, and that's usable capacity based on this solution. You're going to be able to see that after it. You get to go to a petting zoo on all of the things I'll talk about. You can get more information. You can see these in action, and I think you'll be pretty impressed with it. It's very exciting. And so that sort of moves you forward on the VMware side of things, and that really helps a lot of customers change the game. The other side is big data and Ceph solutions. We spend a lot of time talking to banking and finance, to media and entertainment. And through these customer interactions, what we've discovered is, you know, Ceph's extremely popular in emerging space for storage, but most people think of it as a data tub environment. I want a lot of capacity, how do I store it? Well, that makes sense, but in a world today which is requiring solutions that move much faster, we actually had a cry from these customers to say, I need a performance variant of Ceph as I move forward. And so we're announcing our second Micron accelerated solution, which is around Ceph and Supermicro. Again, a complete configuration. You can order this today. And what we found is with all flash array, you can reach 1 million IOPS, something that's unheard of in the Ceph community today. Very exciting, and if you want to kind of think about 140 gigabytes per second, really think about that's 28,000 high-definition streaming videos concurrently coming off of a platform. That's the kind of capacity, that's the kind of performance, that's the kind of solution that our customers are striving for. So very excited about our Ceph solutions. And the last one is our Nexenta Edge solution. So we're really excited. So, you kind of think about a lot of virtualized environment, and I've got this big data world. Well, now also I've got software defined. And the world's definitely, everybody understands software defined and its impact on the industry. Well, working with a leading company, and you think about somebody who's been in software defined for a long time, Nexenta is that company. They've been there, they've seen it, and they've kind of riding the wave of what this future looks like. We're excited to be working with them on their Nexenta Edge solution. It's a scale-out architecture, really great for OpenStack solutions. It's object, it's block, it's whatever you need it to be. And so right now, as we're talking, we have engineers working and collaborating together. We're going to have our solutions coming out towards the second half for this exciting offer. So, really this is the first of many. I kind of talk about this capability as a platform. This is a platform for us to launch and move the industry together with companies like Supermicro, VMware, with Nexenta, with open source technologies like Ceph and Hadoop and others. So it's very exciting for us. And really our whole focus is how do we take out the risk? How do we move this industry forward? And so out of this, we've launched sort of our solid ready seal. It's about how do we take out the risk and complexity. So these are fully referenced architected solutions. You can order them. They're complete recipes on how to deliver the performance and the optimization that we've talked about. They come in some cases with optimized SSDs, because part of being an SSD vendor moving forward is how do I make the right products that actually impact the solutions that customers use. The other one is it's about ease of installation. I mentioned you can order these completely built, fully serviced, predictable, ready to go. That's an important part, but if you're a build-it-your-own person or if you've got an environment you want to put together yourself, we do have the complete reference architectures ready to go as part of that. So all of that's very exciting. And lastly, I think maybe the most important part is it's not the marketing fluff. It's how do you make it predictable? How do you make your outcome equal what you were promised up front? And that's what we're doing here, working with these companies. So very excited about these solutions. And as you think about what this announcement really kind of holds, you can see why it's so important that Micron work with software vendors, with platform vendors to move this machine forward and come out with those. And you see today, we've talked about everything from DRAM to NVDIMMs to SSDs. Well, the reality is this work we're doing here paves the way for things like emerging memory and 3D XPoint, and it paves the way for some of the software technologies that we talked about as well. So much more to come. I think this is the tip of the iceberg. But to talk a little bit more about the emerging memory part, I'd like to welcome to the stage John Carter, who's going to share a little bit about XPoint.
Thank you, Eric. It's definitely exciting times for Micron. I want to be real clear. You've met a lot of our leadership team today. We're driving a lot of solutions forward. We're changing Micron and we're changing the industry. And 3D XPoint is at the heart of that. After 10 years of development, I'd say bold development by Micron, we're turning the page on development and entering the market. I'm working specifically with a focus team on enablement of the ecosystem. It's fun, it's exciting. We're developing a captive market. The next few years are going to be huge. It's huge. And before we go any further, I just want to do a quick review. This is 3D XPoint. This is it. 1,000 times the performance of NAND and 1,000 times the endurance of NAND and 10 times the density of NAND. This is game-changing. I'm having some very interesting discussions as we move forward with our partners. We've been working the last year since we've announced the technology with a unique set of partners that actually are market makers who are the infrastructure leaders of the world, who understand storage, they understand demanding workloads. So to kind of to set the expectation of where we will enter the market, it's in workloads where milliseconds matter. I talk about the performance spectrum, the latency profile, 1,000 times the performance of NAND. Internalize that for a minute. We're going from batch to real time. It's extremely, extremely game-changing. This is where reliability matters, where consistency at scale matters. This is at the heart of 3D XPoint. So I guess to kind of give you some insight, there's been a lot of questions. We had a great dinner last night, talked to a lot of analysts, a lot of burning questions. I'm here to give you some insight to some. We're going to be giving you installments over the next year of where we're going and who we're working with. It's truly exciting, but to kind of give you some insight now to the ecosystem. I get a lot of questions around ecosystem development. What are we doing? You know, how are we going to get this in the market? The first storage class memory, is it real? It's real. You see it here. So where we're working with, what we've been doing over the last year is working with customers, the end customers who understand the workloads that I've described to you, where milliseconds matter, where reliability and scale and concert matter, and they're demanding. So we've worked with them. We're working with the top, I should say, infrastructure providers who understand these workloads. They understand the development cycles that it takes to put a solution into the market. These aren't consumer devices initially. These are ones that when they come in, they have to work, they can't fail. It's uncompromising. This is exactly what 3D XPoint was developed for. So it takes time. So over the course of this year, as you see us ramp the technology and expose it to the industry through our partner with Intel, you'll start to see Micron driving differentiated solutions to take the most value out of this media and present it to the end user in 17 and 18, where we start to hit scale. So it's extremely exciting. I'm happy to be part of this. There's a lot of other questions I'm sure that you have, but you know, at this time, this is kind of what the first installment of what you're going to see over the next year as we start to get into branding. We start to expose some of our partners over time. It's extremely exciting. So I guess for 3D XPoint, I'd like to leave it at that for today and bring up Mark Glasgow, our Vice President of Sales. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Redraft. All right, so exciting. My turn on? There we go. Super excited. Thank you all very much for coming out. This is a big day for Micron, and many more announcements to come that we're super excited about in the future as the company continues to evolve and to address some of the more demanding challenges in the market today. I have the distinct honor of running a customer panel, so you don't take Micron's word for it. You can hear from the voice of the customer about how they're using some of our technologies to drive some of these high-performance workloads and to drive out the cost in their data center, all the while increasing and improving performance. And that's not an easy task. And so we're super excited to have the panelists. Before I introduce them, I want to just talk about something that I've observed in the last couple of decades as a career salesman. I started selling storage in 1992, and since then, I have been on countless thousands of sales calls. And as I think back across that career, there is a common thread through every single customer that I've been to. I can't think of one that doesn't have this imperative that it seems like everybody has. So, and it doesn't matter the industry vertical. It doesn't matter the size of the company. It doesn't matter the workload that they're trying to solve for. Every single customer I've met with has this demand upon them. And that is this requirement, this imperative to drive costs out of the data center. And in many cases, they got to do that and also improve performance. And they do it with a smaller budget than they had last year. So this idea of having to do more with less is very real and very tough. And Micron stands ready to help companies of all sizes in all industries to take care and take advantage of these things. If you look across the last 3 or 4 or 5 decades, this has been in play in front of us the whole entire time. So then the 1970s, we had mainframes, okay? And then the 80s came along, and we had a couple of guys like Scott McNealy and Casey Powell that really helped spur the growth of open systems. So basically, the power of a mainframe at 1/10 the cost, again, driving out efficiency in the data center. In the 90s, we had the ERP boom and people getting ready for Y2K. Again, ERP introducing new levels of efficiencies in companies that had not been there before. And then as we moved into the 2000s, we saw this thing called virtualization take place, not only at the storage layer, but also at the server layer. Okay, so Diane Green and a bunch of super smart engineers get together, and they go out and create this thing called server virtualization and try to somehow get their arms around this huge problem at the time, which was bare metal server sprawl. Okay, huge inefficiencies in the data center. So we saw how that kind of changed our markets and, again, drove billion-dollar market caps in brand new companies as these companies invented new ways to do things better, faster, cheaper. So here we are in the 2010s, and we have this thing called cloud that's upon us. So it really is amazing when you have companies that can go out and create their own private cloud, and they can burst as they need to the public cloud, again, driving efficiencies. I remember selling systems to companies that literally had to plan for the long pole in the tent, which was the holiday season, and then those systems would run at 30% capacity utilization for the rest of the year. Incredibly inefficient. Well, now we've solved that with hybrid cloud. So these things are in play. There's one more big, I shouldn't say one more, the current big trend that we see, again, on this theme of driving costs out of the data center is something that Gartner said a couple of, I think this was about a year and a half ago. They said they predicted by the year 2017, 50% of the global data centers will be running some form of web scale architecture. Okay, if you think about the global data centers, those guys represent way more than 50% of the global IT spend. Okay, so this is a massive trend. This is taking storage from frame-based arrays, typically that were built with spinning media, okay, again, very expensive, into server-attached storage, getting the data closer to the CPU, reducing costs, increasing performance, and again, this cycle continues. So Micron, I believe, is uniquely positioned to take advantage of this trend of not only increasing performance, but doing it while you're driving costs out of the data center. We're one of the few companies that has the technologies that are absolutely required to do this. As we see companies move oceans of spinning media offline, but they got to store those bits somewhere. They're going to go to flash and some of the technologies that we've invented. So we talk about many times at Micron the 4-3-2-1 of Micron. So there's only 4 makers of NAND flash on planet Earth. We are one of them. There are only 3 makers of DRAM on planet Earth, and we are one of them. There's only 2 companies on planet Earth that do both DRAM and NAND, and we are one of them. And mark my words, as we go through time, that dynamic between volatile and non-volatile memories is going to continue to be more and more important as these workloads get more complex. So we're super excited about the positioning that we have as a company at being one of 2 companies on the planet that can do this. And we're the only company on the planet that has all 3, 3D XPoint, NAND, and DRAM. And that's going to allow us to do some things that nobody else can do. So that excitement is why we're here today. So without any further delay, let me go ahead and introduce our panelists. The first panelist I'd like to introduce is Amit Gupta. Please give it up. Amit is the CIO from a company by the name of Distillery. We'll have you introduce your company here in just a second. Our next panelist is Deal Daly, currently with Redapt. And Dill also has a very colorful and interesting past. We'll talk about that in a second. And our last panelist is Mike Peterson. Mike, there you are. Mike's with Netflix. Come on up. So Mike is with Netflix, and as you all know, they are to Blockbuster and Hollywood Video as Uber is to taxis. So they have reinvented some business models, again, using some very interesting technologies. We'll have him say a little bit about that. So, guys, with that, let's go ahead. If you want a chair, there's 3 here. So, Mike, why don't we start with you? Take 2 or 3 minutes. We all understand. In fact, I think everybody here is a member of Netflix. So, tell us a little bit about the inner workings, what you're doing behind the scenes that allow you guys to do what you do at the scale that you do it at, and still drive out costs.
So, just real quickly, what we do is we make appliances that we host inside of other people's networks, and a part of that is to drive some efficiency in how we deliver video over a video CDN. And we do that. Originally, we started with spinning disks, and we've moved more and more into flash-based technologies to drive efficiency for that. And so we've started with SSDs and then moved on to NVMe recently.
And you said something to me earlier today that I thought was interesting. So you care less about IOPS. They're important, but it's not your single concern. What's your biggest concern?
So our biggest concern is bus bandwidth inside of a server. So filling, originally the 10 gig port was fine with spinning drives. Then we moved on to flash to try and get to around 40. And then moving beyond 40, we've had to move from SSDs to try and figure out how to use NVMe to do that.
So you have to worry about bus speeds, latency, IOPS, driving out costs, maintaining the efficiencies. Huge job on your shoulders. So thank you for that. Deal Daly. So I'm going to brag about Deal for a second. I've known Deal for a while. He is He's CIO. He was formerly CIO at Ancestry.com, and before that he was at Intuit, and before that he was at LexisNexis. In every single one of those companies, he took those legacy architectures, chock full with spinning media frame-based arrays. Say that 10 times fast. And he had the insights to know that the right direction for those companies was to go to a server-attached storage model, improve efficiencies, drive out costs, reduce power and cooling, reduce the real estate footprint. Deal did this 3 different times at 3 different companies, Lexis, Intuit, and Ancestry.com. Did I just steal all your thunder?
Well, you did a great job, so turned out for my mark there. Right? Yeah, I think the focus on innovation and modernizing infrastructures has been a consistent theme. And driving out cost, delivering agility, performance, and scalability really forced us into a thinking model where we had to basically rip all of our thinking apart and go down to pure server, memory, disk, and then figure out how that was going to evolve. And basically we came up with, make sure we have open architectures, make sure we're doing open source, and make sure we're driving scale and performance out of our systems. And that's what drives us into technologies like Flash and SSD, SATA, SAS, and all of the faster technologies that can then scale out horizontally.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So Amit, a quick intro on Distillery. I think it's one of the coolest business models out there, and I think somebody said it earlier. Distillery couldn't have existed 15 years ago with the technologies that existed back then. They are here today with some really interesting stuff, so please share with us.
So we are big data, digital intelligence.
Make sure that's turned on. There we go.
So we are a big data, digital intelligence company. We use massive data sets, proprietary technology, and human intuition to help our partners find new customers and achieve their marketing objectives. We do that by ingesting billions of web transactions a day, tracking hundreds and millions of devices every day, storing their history in a data store.
Excellent. So, Amit, thank you for that. All right, so I'm going to lob up a question. Any one of the panelists can take it. So as we've seen NAND flash prices drop fairly significantly over the recent years, how did that change things? So tell me about how that contributed to your driving the cost out of the data center.
Well, I think there's 2 factors. One is the driver factor, which is the types of workloads that we all have to deal with. Ancestry, as an example, 2 years ago started a DNA sequencing process business. So they sell a DNA test. So with millions of DNA samples times 700,000 data points per sample, you have to drastically drive out cost of your infrastructure when you're trying to handle 1 trillion data points, and you don't want to have that all in your data center. So building out our own hybrid solution with basically plain vanilla hardware that's loaded up with the right types of flash and SSD type hardware really helps our performance. I think one thing I'll punch back to you on is, since we have to burst to the cloud in order to satisfy those workloads, how do you guys at Micron work with the big cloud providers?
Yeah. So we I appreciate that. That's a nice softball pitch. I'll take that one. So for years and years and years, when you flew into JFK and you pulled out, there was this big bright orange sign that said 8 out of 10 of the largest banks in the world all run on Oracle. Larry Ellison, some great marketing. That sign was there for a very long time, and I don't think it's there anymore. We could put up a similar sign that says 8 out of 8 of the largest hyperscale companies on the planet all run on Micron. So we do work with all of them in both DRAM and NAND. And we see some pretty interesting. These guys are on that cutting edge of really driving costs out of the data center in a freakish way. Their scale is massive, And they couldn't do what they do today with running on a really expensive frame-based array with all the maintenance fees and just all the many, many costs that come with that. Not to mention the real estate in the data center and the heating and cooling, or the power and cooling. It's something they couldn't do. So we get in conversations with them on a very interesting level from an engineering perspective.
Well, and I would guess that that's one of the reasons why their cost models can be so low to make it attractive to folks like us and Netflix and others to use their technologies when we don't want to support the capital to build out, a whole bunch of infrastructure and then only use it 30% of the year or something.
Exactly. No, that's great. So, Mike, how long have you been with Netflix?
For about 4.5 years.
Okay, so you've seen some pretty interesting times in just the last 5-year span. Could you guys be doing what you're doing today? Could you be operating at the scale you are with just spinning media?
Yeah, no, we couldn't get to the scale we were today without with just spinning media. And like I said, moving to SSDs help us grow to the point we are today, and we're definitely going to be using NVMe solutions going forward to help us scale even further.
Tell me a little bit about workloads. I get the feeling as I have these dozens and dozens of sales calls that I attend on a yearly basis, that the workloads are changing in a fairly significant way, and I think they'll change yet again when 3D XPoint comes out, and some things that we haven't even contemplated will now become available because of the new capabilities of that particular memory medium. Tell me about the workloads. Are they changing? Is that a wrong sense, Amit?
Yeah, I mean, it's increasing every day. We are adding, like I talked about this universal data store we manage. It gets hundreds of millions of devices every day, and every device could have hundreds of data points. And every day they do something different, and the new data point comes in, and hundreds of those data points per device coming in. And we are in the business of RTB, or real-time bidding, where we bid or participate in auctions of advertising inventory. So when we do that on a large scale, I'm talking about more than 50 billion requests coming in a day, and this data store, which has billions of data points, we get the request on the fly, and it's a real-time access for that random device out of those billions of data points and make a decision on it. Generally, we get 100 milliseconds to respond to within, and out of a majority of that 100 millisecond goes to network travel time back and forth. So we are generally left with 10, maybe 12 milliseconds to access that device history, make a decision on that device and bid or not bid. And that directly impacts our revenue. Because if we don't bid, if we lose out on that opportunity and we lose that, we don't generate revenue, hits our top line, bottom line.
The shelf life for those opportunities are like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think another point has to do with machine learning, where businesses like Ancestries and others have to accumulate an enormous amount of real-time information in order to understand how their systems are performing, how their customers are interacting with their systems, and the machine learning data requirements that go along with that require both space and performance. And as those needs, blow up, basically, we have to continually drive horizontally and then drive the cost per unit down. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to provide those sorts of analytic services to our own businesses.
So Dil, while you're on that, I wanted to ask you a question. When you started this at LexisNexis, that was the first time you went from sort of the legacy architecture into what we call a web scale IT.
These are generational, right? So in LexisNexis, we're talking about two jobs ago for me. And so there was like moving from to distributed systems and continually driving both the process, the skills, right, the technologies into a more open and generic standpoint. Further on to Intuit, the same thing. Really optimize data centers, close data centers as needed, optimize their performance of systems by virtualizing and building an internal cloud, going to lowest common denominator type hardware that could perform very well. And then it sort of all came together at Ancestry, where so much of the SSD, SATA, SAS technologies and flash became available, that became another iteration of then driving the cost down, going further horizontal, using public clouds. It really was a game changer in terms of the last 5 years in terms of making all those technologies come together.
So as the costs come down and the performance capabilities change and improve, it opens up more and more doors, and you continue to see that. Let me ask you this, and perhaps, Mike, you can take this. In the context that is Netflix, what do you see as the next big hill to climb for you guys?
Probably the next big hill to climb for us is to try and get to delivering 100 gigs and out of a single server, and so that's a challenge that we're going to work on going forward. And the big way and that drives a lot of scale and economics for us, and so being able to use solid state technology to do that is going to be the big thing that we're looking for.
100 gigs out of a single server, exceedingly dense. So, right?
Yeah, it's what we're aspiring for.
That's awesome, outstanding. Deal, Amit, what about you guys? What do you see as the next big sort of opportunity?
Well, I think the biggest challenge and opportunity it's for all of the technologists that are in businesses is to continually to remain open so that they are not preventing themselves from taking up new technologies. So, the tendencies is to close or to decide on something, and then you get locked in, kind of. And you really don't want to do that. You want to maintain open architectures so that you can consistently evolve to the next level, right? Because 10 years ago, the lifespan of technologies was 5 to 10 years. 5 years ago, it was about 3 years. Now, we did OpenStack 2 years ago, and last year we did Docker. Right. So it's like you have an 18-month life cycle to ingest and then roll out new technologies. And the same is true at the hardware level, where you guys are inventing new things every 8, 10, 15 months. You're ready to deploy them. Customers like us have to be ready to absorb them, use them, and then we can stay in sync with the benefits, because you want to get the benefits as soon as you possibly can.
And hopefully not make decisions today that accidentally paint yourself into a corner in the next 12 or 18 months. So. Yeah. Interesting, and an unenviable position to be in, for sure. Amit, 50 billion requests a day. I assume that's going to continue to grow for you guys.
Yeah. So this year's goal is to be able to handle 75 billion plus a day. That's where we're working for, and we are using the latest 9100s and whatever else you guys are producing to drive that growth.
Yeah. Great. I'm glad you brought that up. So we see the progression from SAS to SATA into NVMe now. Do you guys see NVMe in your futures? I think we talked a little bit about that.
Yes, we do. And I think a part of it is that at this time it's a little on the pricey side for us to scale out in a big way with it. But as the 3D NAND technologies come in and that price comes down, we're definitely going to be interested in using that.
We've used all three of those disk and disk-like technologies in our own our own homegrown open source software solution, storage solutions. And I think whatever comes next, that's why we have to remain open, so that we can bring in that next level. And then maybe there's a 4-tiered storage solution, and then 3, and we drop the bottom one out, and it goes into a legacy mode. But I think as long as we maintain ourselves as software-driven at our level, then we can employ whatever hardware as soon as it's available.
And see, now with your new position as Chief Strategy Officer at Redapt, I have to think that you're seeing many, many more examples of this, and obviously you're imparting the lessons you've learned doing this several times now at different companies.
Yeah, I think many companies are looking at modernization, I call it, because it's whatever point you're at, you want to start moving from there toward the current state and then toward the future. So people are in various states of having legacy, right? Whether it was last year's legacy or 20 years ago legacy, right. And you want to move off that. And we do see a lot of customers that want to, move off the dime and get into the newer technologies, and they use companies like Redapt to help advise them, consult with them, help with engineering and hardware solutions, which you guys, of course, are part of.
Yeah. Outstanding. So, any parting shots before we wrap up? Any last-minute thoughts?
Keep doing new things.
We're trying. We definitely are. If we've proven anything over 37 years is that we are not sitting idle. We are thought leaders. Everything that we do is stuff that we've invented, and it's our own IP, and you can absolutely bet that you'll continue to see more cutting-edge thought leadership that will allow folks like these to drive solutions, drive costs out of the data center while improving performance. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. So next up, I will call Darren Thomas back up to the stage. Darren, take it away. Thank you, sir.
Well, I think we've done a great job of demonstrating that Micron has a rich history, a rich legacy of invention and developing technology and moving into that technology kind of at a pace faster than our competitors. What you're seeing now is we're not just creating the memory technologies, but we're addressing that next layer of technology. It's got to get solved. You heard the customers talking about they're able to do things today they couldn't do before, and to a great degree, it's because we have now reached out, Micron has reached out at a community level, and we are now reaching out to our partners. We're now reaching out to software companies. We're reaching out to some companies that you might even think are competitors to us. But we intend to solve this problem so that our customers get the products they need. And when we do that, this market will grow. And so with that, what I want to do, we've been doing a webcast all along. I want to thank the webcast invitees for being on for this almost hour and a half. And if you've made it to this end, you've gotten to see a great transformation of a great company. And with that, we can end the webcast.